is episode number 7 of the podcast Caravan of Consciousness, and it is November 2023. And today I have Michael Harrell with me. He is the founder of a modality, a healing modality called Language Lessons of the Heart. He's also a co-host of a show called The Pork and Beans Show, which is on YouTube. So welcome, Michael.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy to be here. Amanda McLeod, is that Scottish?
Yes, but it's my married name. But I do have
Oh,
Scottish heritage as well. I'm originally from England and I moved to Australia when I was a young child. And my husband was born in Australia, but his father and grandfather and generations going back were from
well,
Scotland.
the name Harold is actually a Scottish name, and it means wild hare.
Oh, okay.
Harold.
Yep.
Anyway, that's why I got that off of one of those you know ancestry kind of things.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I think our family is German, Irish, German, um, French, German, and British. Something like that.
Yeah. Well, I've got English and Scottish as far as I know. Yeah.
English
But
and Scottish, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And then
I
as I
spent a
say,
lot. I've been to Edinburgh, and I've been to not and what's that? What's the town in Scotland, the one with the big castle on it?
Glasgow? No,
Yeah, I've
not
been to Glasgow.
Glasgow. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I haven't
Yeah,
actually been there, even though when I was in England, because I was born in North Yorkshire, so that's not far from the Scottish border. So as far as I know, I haven't been. Maybe when I was an infant, my parents might have gone over the border to Scotland for a weekend trip or something, but I can't remember actually going there.
I used to have a
So yeah.
girlfriend, and she had some property in Ireland. She was actually from Philadelphia, but so we were living in transcontinental. We'd live in Florida part of the time, and then in Ireland in the summertime. So that was so I always went through England, and I've sort of been over there a lot.
Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful country, but I don't think I could handle the cold anymore. I'm so
Mm.
acclimatized now to the Australian weather. I mean, it can still get cold in some places in Australia, but where I am here in Queensland, on the east coast, it's subtropical here. It gets tropical further up, but yeah, I'm just north of the capital, just north of Brisbane in southeast Queensland. And as I said earlier, it's been quite warm and humid the last couple of days. It's been up to about 37, 38 degrees Celsius. So, and in the middle of summer, it can hit around 40, 41 sometimes. So, yeah, it can get very hot, but I much prefer the warmer weather than cold. If it gets below
I
about
I
22
feel you.
degrees, I'm racing for a jacket.
I spent almost all my adult life in Florida and Miami, Florida, and it was pretty much nice all year round.
Yeah,
We didn't even get into the hundreds, 100 degrees or something was always in the 90s or 80s and tropical
yeah,
breeze. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, what I wanted to talk to you about today is obviously healing modalities. And before we press record here and started the show, we were actually talking about what I'm studying, which is soul center healing hypnosis. And I'm still in my practical part of the course, so I'm not fully qualified yet to go out and perform it in the general public. But it's basically a form of healing where we're releasing entities because whenever we've had any trauma in our life, we can open ourselves up energetically for attachments. So we can have all different attachments. We could
The
have,
trauma itself is a being,
yeah,
and it is somebody who did something. It's called an experience or an event.
yeah,
And so that can be released as a spirit, as you would have if it was and in fact, it is an alien spirit. If your mom and dad yelled at you or neglected you or hurt you, hit you, anything, that's their spirit. And then there's invisible spirits, which is we think of when we have, an exorcism or a spirit releasement kind of a thing having to go on. But
yeah,
everything is spirit.
yeah,
Everything is a being. Everything is a conscious being, and that gives you tremendous power.
Yes.
because you can deal with our souls, our hearts. We know how to deal with spirits. We tell them, fuck off,
Yep.
right? Or, it's not working, you got to go. Whatever it is, we know how to deal with spirits, but we don't know how to work with stuff that are sort of in our subconscious that we can't reach, we can't touch.
Yes. And that's
And
probably what,
it gets mislabeled.
yes.
I'm not a big fan of psychology because psychology just never really came across with the goods. It was all, you know, uh, their whole thing is started off with analysis, and analysis is to like try to figure out what something is and give labels to it and understand the flow and all that kind of. None of that stuff helps.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You could be stuck in analysis for 15 years, or you could be stuck in talk therapy for 5 years, and you know what I mean?
Yep.
It didn't work out as an effective healing modality. This um, traditional psychology, whereas
Yes.
shamanism can work pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yes. So how did
Anyway,
you come across or how did you develop the language lessons of the heart? Or do you want to actually talk a little bit about what it is first so that people have got a bit of an understanding of the modality?
I'll just tell my little story. When I was in my 20s, I met an enlightened guy, and then that was pretty interesting. And I mean, it was like blew my mind. And then I looked around, and he understood, just talking about the light inside and all that kind of stuff. And I was kind of a damaged person. My mom went psychotic when I was born, and she had postpartum, and so she was gone for 3 or 4 months. And then when she came back, she wasn't really a mom anymore. So that's where my trauma came from. So I was looking for something to kind of fill up that hole in my soul. And I found a really great guru, and that was a really great blessing. It was like, so I got initiated into Kriya Yoga. And when I was started, I was doing like 6 hours a day and working 8 hours
Wow.
a day of
Yep.
meditation. I was like seriously into it because I was driven by pain. And I did that, traveled all around the world and look, to follow my guru and doing other things. And but then after like about 13 years, that's sort of like my motivation for doing that much meditation or being that single focus um, kind of ran out. I remember the last Kriya Yoga meditation that I did I put my back against a mango tree, and I didn't care. It was like I got to this place of what they call desireless desire, where you don't have any desires. I didn't care. I was just sitting there, and I didn't even pretend to meditate. And all of a sudden, this whole universe comes inside my head, and that was pretty profound. Then the voice came and said, "We'd like to recruit you to be a god, and we're showing you the universe that is your universe." And I'm going, not caring at all, not impressed, not thrilled. It was just, I mean, if a leaf had fallen, it would be the same effect. But I was sitting there, so I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, and I see the whole top of my head. There's a whole universe there. And, there's no Big Dipper, there's no Orion's belt, there's none of that kind of stuff there. I'm going, oh, okay, that's cool. And they say, yeah, this is your universe, and we're seeing if you want to be the god of this universe. And I said, and I immediately thought, well, that's the human resources kind of a department must be scraping pretty low at the bottom of the barrel there. I'm thinking, well, if there's this universe there, and I'm looking at all these galaxies and stuff, I'm saying, well, if the last guy didn't do it, then they're asking me to do it. You know what I mean? So like, what's going on here? Or is there like So anyway, I didn't even get into that, but the damn thing stayed inside my head for 6 weeks. And at the time I was a cabinet maker, so I'm working with these, 5 horsepower giant commercial uh saws, cutting up stuff and making cabinets and stuff. And I had this universe inside my head, you know, and that was a kind of like a game changer. And I would walk around and I'd say, I'm God, and I'm Michael, and which is means I'm God. There's God inside of Michael, so God Michael, and then there's Michael that is all God. So there's no God, there's no Michael there. So there's Michael God and God Michael. There's those two things, and I would walk around and I'd see this and happen. Eyes open, eyes closed. There was a universe inside my head. And I think, looking back on it, really what was being said was, okay, if you reach the pinnacle of meditation or you become a god, then what do you do, right? Then what do you need to do to be a god, right? And then, as these things happen, I was in my 40s, I guess at that time. I had a dark night of the soul. I had this beautiful woman who was a millionaire. We traveled around the world together, and lost her and lost my job. All this little cat ran away, and I had to deal with my emotional body, and so that's what got me into doing my own healing work. So I took the concentration of a yogi. Like I give it to you that I'm a failed yogi or an ex-yogi, someone who didn't make it, right? But I still, the concentration was there. So when I started doing my healing work, and I did some things like primal therapy, and I did some things, had some people give me things to look up and books to read and all this kind of stuff. And and so I started doing things. One of the things I learned was that we have these four parts of self: spirit, heart, will, and body, and that they are part of our energy systems. They're like the color of the white light that comes into us as the life force is got the colors of the chakras on it. And then but the main energy is the spirit, which is just this this chakra, and your throat chakra, that represents the spirit energy. And then there's the heart is the green energy of the heart, and the will is the lower three chakras. And then there's the energy of the body, which is the Father manifestation. These are all the four faces of God. So my healing is rooted, all of it goes back to the Godhead. So that I don't know why that's just where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the Godhead. And so I just developed the processes that I found that worked. And I saw that there was these stuff that was inside of me was a little memories of events, memories of that I made conclusions of. So if I made a conclusion that I'm not good enough, it was based on the event. So there's an event, and then my conclusion, I'm not good enough, and that became like a brick in the wall of my reality. And then I built my reality inside of me of the bad self-image or the wounded self or the broken inner child. I built that over these bricks of events of people that have done things to me or my reaction to them, which is my participation in it. But anyway, yeah, and then I did that, and that's so primal therapy, right? It was like primal scream,
Yeah.
real powerful. One of
Yeah.
the most powerfully transformative things you can do is get people to do their primal work, because again, it goes back to the Godhead. So we have these four aspects of one light: spirit, heart, will, and body. And the will is your emotional body, and it's also your inner child, but it's also your inner goddess and all that kind of stuff. The way the creation of the universe happened is because of Rudra's roar. So when you're going to create a universe, or you're going to create a life, you're going to create changes, there's this roar. You do this roar, there's primal release, and that vibrates everything. So that's what tuning forks are, and the sound healing and Reiki and all that kind of stuff. Is they're substitutes for just opening your voice and screaming, because that vibration vibrates your actual aura and takes all these things that you could see in your biofield and will vibrate them back into the way they're supposed to be. So there's a primal scream part of it. There's the talking to the parts of self part of it. Here's the thing, okay? Well, most of the problems that we have to do with a bad self-image and self-hatred. But and when you say, look, you got to love yourself, people don't know what that means because you actually are taught to love somebody on the outside. So, as soon as you make this division between spirit, heart, will, and body, and you can talk to them and they can talk to you, then you can have compassion. What's going on with my heart? This girlfriend that I had broke my heart, or this relationship I had, or what, right? And then what's going on with my emotional body? This what's the torment? What's the suffering? What's the pain? So, and then your physical body, your business, everything that goes through your consciousness goes out into your physical body. So we got a biofield. There's stuff that's going on out in our biofield, and it goes inside of us, and it also manifests in our striated muscles and in our joints and all that kind of stuff, and diseases and all that kind of stuff. So the body is like the final what do you call it, lodging place for all that stuff. So when I started talking to parts of self, then getting my memory back and getting my power back and finding compassion and being able to self-talk. As soon as you realize that there's stuff when you talk, who's listening? And if your heart is listening, or your will is listening, or your body's listening, and you're saying depowering things or self-hatred things, oh, I hate my hair, I hate my look, I hate my teeth, I hate my life, right? That goes and it goes and it vibrates and it stays lodged into one of these four centers. So that's pretty powerful. But then the other thing is, because those four centers are also, so you have spirit, heart, will, and body, right? The higher self of spirit, heart, will, and body is God the Father, God the Mother, heart of creation, and the Father of manifestation. And this is what makes the Merkaba. Okay, the Merkaba is the Jewish star. Yep. So you take these balls of energy, three of them. There are actually four of them: spirit, heart, will, and body, and you can compress them together, and it makes like a little pyramid. And you put two of them together, and it makes a Jewish star. Yep. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
so
interesting.
I don't know if I got to. So that's how I took notes, and I was remembering what I was doing. And when I would do that, when I talk to the parts of myself, or I do emotional release work, or the empowerment work, or the judgment and denial work, is the words. Judgment and denial work is to release the judgments and denials that you have in your life. Then I started feeling a lot better. My life changed. And then so I was kind of took notes on it. And that's how the roots of language lessons of the heart was actually how I did it for myself. And that's why I don't really charge any money, because I'm like on a cosmic kind of karmic level, and I'm not a therapist, I'm not a social worker, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a life coach, none of that. What I do is I teach a process of, if you do these things, you're going to be able to clear your own energy, get your power back, get your memory back. Because doing that, between talking the parts of self and doing the emotional release work, I got all my memories back. I got all my memories of all my lifetime, and got all my memories all the way back to the Godhead. All that. I was part of the group of beings who watched the earth cool down. There was a lot of us, actually. And so and because the earth is a manifestations of the great mother's will for a beautiful place for her children. Yeah, so the earth is this is a will planet. Yeah, and your soul, what you call a soul, is the universe itself, herself. Spirit is the light that is generated by the universe that we call God, or the life force. So spirit and will is the yin and yang, the light and the dark. Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to what you were saying before about when you're talking to the parts of yourself and if you're talking negatively, I mean, there's been actual experiments done with rice and also a moto with the water.
Yeah.
Speaking like you put rice in jars and you talk to one and you tell it you hate it and you wish it would die, and then you send love and compassion and gratitude to another one. And I think I even heard recently on one of your podcasts you said, and even ones that you ignore, they end up often even looking worse than the ones that you were sending the
Yeah,
negative.
because the
Yeah,
opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is just to ignore.
yeah,
Is to just deny and ignore. That's the opposite of love.
yeah,
Is total detachment. Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
Michiko Hayashi, she's running the World Water Project for Dr. Mo. She was in his thing, so she's a member of our group too.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Because I've studied it.
she's doing good work. She's working on the water side of it.
Yeah, yeah. And well, when you think that, you know, our bodies make up a certain amount of percentage of water, they say 70%, but who knows? Because everything we've been told in the mainstream, you know, is a lie or a obfuscation at best. So we don't know for sure, but we do know that the human body is made up of a lot of water and moisture. And so, and water has memory, and water can be programmed as well.
Water is a being.
Yes.
Just cut
And
out all that stuff. I just gradually cut out all the stuff as that, rocks are a being, the air is a being, the rivers are a being, the ocean is a being,
yeah,
everything is a being. If you start doing it that way, that's the organic way that our souls connect with reality, because
yeah,
our souls recognize soul
yeah. So
and
everything has a
beingness.
consciousness.
And everything is a being, an intelligent being. You can talk to the trees, you can talk to the rocks, you can talk to the mountains, you can talk to the animals, you
Yeah,
can talk to the angels. You see what I'm saying? And if you can talk to them and they're talking back to you, then you're talking to a being.
yeah,
Your
yes,
crystals, you're showing us our crystals.
yeah,
Each one of those crystals is a being.
yes,
That's how they help you.
yes, absolutely. Yeah,
And this helps a lot. You talk about you talk about we were lied. Well, one of the biggest lies is that we're a single, unique individual, and that we're an individual, and we're the only one that's like us, and all this kind of stuff, which is true, and fingerprints and all that kind of stuff. But uh, we're not a singular being. We're a collective. We have a spirit, heart, will and body, and 30 trillion cells,
hmm,
and another 30 trillion microorganisms that aren't even our DNA. They're just floating around in our guts and our blood and doing stuff, right? You have a whole kingdom there. You have a whole kingdom.
yeah,
These are the spirit, heart, will, and body. They're the represents sort of like the royalty of the what's going on. And then the expression is all the people of your kingdom are your cells, your
yeah,
organs, your cells, and all that kind of stuff, which you can talk to. And each one of your cells could possibly grow a whole nother being. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
we literally are the gods. We're going back to remember me and the mango tree.
yeah,
We really literally are the gods of this being, of this. We are the spirit in the shell of this body. And
yes,
this body is the body of humanity.
yeah,
So we we what happens to us when we get wounded is we are wounded and there's only one of us, right? So that means we take the full hit. Yeah, but we're
yeah,
not just one being. We're spirit, heart, will, and body. and one of them is taking the hit, emotional hit hardest, and that's almost usually the will. Can sometimes be the spirit, sometimes be the body. They're all kind of interdependent. But if you focus on healing the will polarity, which is the deep, dark feminine, the emotional, the goddess within you, the inner child, these are all will polarity. When you focus on her, then that's the key to everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Because the spirit doesn't really get hurt. It doesn't have that emotional gravity that the
Yep.
that the
I get
will
the
has.
sense that probably the spirit is more of the observer, the detached observer.
Yeah, and also the instigator and the creator, right?
Yep.
So out of ignorance, it'll create assumptions like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, life is hard. It's trying to come up with some kind of an idea to rationalize the trauma that you've been through.
Yep.
And it's not that you've been through it, it's that it is that your emotional body has been through it. And here's the thing about pain, trauma, pain is a call to action. So if you have trauma that happened when you're 4, 5, or 6 years old, and now you're 46 years old, then that means that pain has been stayed in stasis and then being felt by your will for 40 years. Yeah.
Yep.
And when you understand that, then you can rally around and say, I'm not going to leave a child crying and lonely and lost for 40 years. It's time to get off your butt and do something about it, right?
Yep.
Pain says, do something. This hurts. I'm hurt. I got burned, or I got uh, my shin got banged on the table or something. You know what I mean? It's like you're jumping around. I got cut. It's like pain is a call to action. And
Yep.
so, but if we have this singular being, we don't we think of ourselves as this singular functioning conglomerate, right? But if that's all we got, then we have to look for somebody else to do some healing work for us, right?
Yep.
We are not the one that's in control. As soon as you understand that there's the things that happen to you stick to you, and that what sticks to you can hurt you, then you can be the therapist, you can be the doctor, you could be um, the detective to do the detective work. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. Absolutely. Yep. So
So what I
when,
do, so after this, the talking to the parts of self, which is critical, that has never been on the planet before,
yep.
right? And yet, if you go to the Bible, for those people who are into the Bible, Christ asked these guys, the Jewish guys, he said, what's the greatest commandment? And the greatest commandment was to love God with your whole spirit, your whole heart, your whole will, and all the strength of your body.
Yep.
Right? That's the greatest commandment. And so that implies you need to have a whole spirit, a whole heart, a whole soul. This is what the clearing is all about, because you get the alignment with those inside of you, and then you got that Jewish star. The Jews were actually on track with a lot of stuff, but they just culted it, so they lost it all.
Yep.
So anyway, and then to love your brothers as you love yourself. So the whole thing is that greatest commandment is to love yourself. And it's not loving to leave a part of yourself in pain and misery for 40 years. It's just not.
Yep.
Yeah. And we have to take that responsibility.
And it
And the
also
second thing, the
connects.
second thing I did to go back with this theme, the second thing I did is I teach people an empowerment, right? I'm empowering myself with a strong and loving intent to heal my will. Will you help me? That's the empowerment. And I tell everybody to say that 10,000 times, because we got told no 58,000 times.
Yep.
So all that no negativity, you can't do this, you wish, you want, no, 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 stop, finish that, finish your
Yep.
homework, finish
Sit
your
down and
food,
shut
doctor,
up. Children are seen and not
that's
heard.
all that stuff. Just
Yep.
the meta message comes over 50,000. So I'm empowering myself with strong and loving intent to heal my will, which is down here. you say that 10,000 times, but you say it from a different personality, like a plumber or a sea captain or a therapist or an angel or an elemental you see what I'm saying? You say it from a different points, different um, avatars, right? Then you try to say it with a different emotion. So fear, anger, happiness, joy, gratitude. Every time, because you're going to say this 10,000 times, that gives you a wide range of personalities to be speaking and a wide range of emotions. And then you have your targets, and the targets are the same kind of a thing. You can use the God and the spirits and the elements and the chakras, and you can use the angels and the ascended masters, or the people, or the sidewalks, or the sky. You see what I'm saying? As your target, will you help me? If you do this, eventually what you get is what you're actually doing is gathering a healing team of individual people, right? So let's say out of all that, after saying that for 3 months, you've got like maybe really 30 really strong personality types, and you got this bunch of different feelings that you can feel, right? You have an emotional range from
Yep.
sadness and grief to like joy and happiness, to be empowered, to rage, to murder and killing, and all these other targets that are going on over here of who you're speaking to, who's your audience, the them and the they. Now, what this does, going back to the little wounded child, something happened. You got hit, you got spanked, you got accused. Something happened that broke the camel's back, and you're crushed, right? Well, you've got, and then you're all will, you're all one being, you're all one feeling. So your thoughts and your emotions and everything was just one thing. But now, as an adult, you spread out like a therapist is not going to take that hit the way you would, and a sea captain wouldn't, and a cartoon character or whatever. You have all this whole wide range of people who you can be expressed from, and a whole wide range of emotions that you can have emotions. It was good, it was bad, it was helpful, and whatever. You see what I'm saying? You have all these different emotions. So you have choice, but if you don't have choice, then you're screwed. You just have to take the bullet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now you
Yep.
have choices because there's more of you. There's more aspects. There's more facets to the diamond, and it's not just you taking the hit, not just you against the world. It is, which is much closer to the reality, because how many spirit guides do people have in reality? 12, dozen, 200? How many spirit guides have you heard
Yeah.
of?
Well, it can range. Um,
Well, there you go.
yeah. Yep.
So but try to get it. Let's here again. So you build up love is when you talk to the parts of self, spirit, heart, will, and body, you increase your self-love by 400%.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to go to a dog and say, "Hey, doggy," you know, and it's easy when you separate yourself into parts. Then you can say, "How's my heart doing? I'm so happy that you're doing your thing." And how's my beautiful will? And how's my spirit going?
Yep.
And what do you guys want for dinner? And you want a treat today? And you want to watch some good movies? You see what I'm saying? And you're increasing your self-love by 400%. There's very few modalities out there that'll do that for you. Plus giving you choices. You don't have if when you're a kid, you don't have a choice. And then we carry that, and there's no choice. I have to do what mom and dad says. There's no choice, right? And then the authorities, I have to do what they say, and then more authorities, and religious authorities, and political authorities, and police authorities. We don't actually have a choice. You don't have a choice until you install a choice. And to install a choice, you have to make a list of all the things that you can do, right? So
Yep.
all the different people, you can be a ballerina, you could be a business executive, you could be an inventor, you could be a musician. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the more of you is, the better. Because
Yep.
only one part of you has gotten crushed. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's kind of the overall. That's kind of the overall of what I'm doing. Yep, I do it for free, and a lot of people like it, and a lot of people just they can't take it in. It's going to take a while, right? Because this is new to planet Earth.
Yep. And
Like you just said, you're taking this class that's doing some very fantastic work. These classes, but that's new. That's 2020. This is 2023, 2024, and that's new to Earth too.
yes, yes. I mean, we've been obviously infiltrated and bombarded with all these entities and attachments for years. But even I don't know if you've heard of Jerry Marzinski, but he was a psychologist and he clinical psychologist. He worked in prisons and hospitals, in mental wards in hospitals. And when he was going through his actual studies, he was questioning what he was being told, because they were saying, no, people hear voices and have schizophrenia because it's a chemical imbalance. And he said, well, can you show me what chemicals in the brain are actually imbalanced, and what should they be, and where do they sit with schizophrenics? And he could never get a straight answer, and he was always seen as being very dissonant in the class. And so he worked within the industry for a while, but then he started asking questions of his clients, and he had to be very careful because he could have got deregistered. But when he started really delving into what the voices were saying, he's realizing that these voices were external to the patients. And that's when he realized that these voices are actually other beings. Some of them are demonic, some of them can be disincarnate entities that have not moved on after they've passed over, and they are the ones that are affecting these patients. And it's not within the brain, it's not a chemical or a physiological imbalance. And but all psychiatry and psychology wanted to do, particularly psychiatry, was medicate, which that did dull the voices. But obviously, medications are not helpful anyway, for various different reasons. Um, but then the voices would tell the patients to not take the medication, and then they would end up lashing out at the doctors and things like that. So it was just this vicious cycle. But yeah, he's done a lot of work in helping people to deal with the voices, and he works with a lady called Sherry Sweeney, I think her name is, and she has a program called That's a Lie program. So whenever these voices were talking, the patient would say, That's a lie. You can leave me alone. That's a lie. I don't believe you. And just kept shutting them down. And doing that in repetition over time would quiet
And
the
it
voices.
is a lie. That's the thing. It is a lie.
Yes, yes,
You
because
know,
they,
that's why I don't want to be a therapist, and I don't want
yep,
to sit there and listen to people's problems, because to me it's all a lie.
yes,
Their memory is distorted, and their interpretation is not right. And
yep,
it's all triggered and all that stuff. It's none of it is real.
yep. And it's
And
stories, and people
there's
get it.
another thing, right, that you have to throw into this mix here that we're talking about healing, is we're infinite and immortal beings. We are not, we are on this long, long journey. I can tell you from my own experience, we've been since the beginning, before the creation of this universe. We watched the universe come into existence. We are eternal beings. And this whole thing, as soon as you die, you go to the Godhead, you listen to the near death experience people, it's all over. The story is over, the pain's over, everything's gone, the reality is over. It's like, hey, it doesn't
Yep,
matter if you have kids, or what, or family. You're like, okay, I'm here now. It's all over. You see what I'm saying?
yep,
And when you heal properly, that's what you feel. It's like it never happened.
yes,
When you remove all the energy that's there you remove the beings that are there inside you, the little bricks in the wall. It's when you heal, it's the end of pain. And not only is it the end of pain, it is as if it never happened.
yep,
So the most real thing that there is in this world is pain, suffering, emotional pain, traumatic pain. That's the most real thing. And yet when you heal it, it becomes the most unreal thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It is the illusion of illusions. It's
Yes.
the heavy duty illusion of suffering. But when it's gone, it's gone. It's gone for good.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I did my healing work for about 4 years, and I did some workshops in Jamaica. I did some workshops in Miami and Florida, and that was pretty amazing. All this stuff is coming from the beginning of creation. All spirit beings are made from the what you used to be called the Big Bang. In that Big Bang event is everything. So everything goes back to the Godhead, and which is kind of reason why a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense until you realize that if we have denial, it means God had denial first. If there's evil, then there's a side of God that's evil. You see what I'm saying? Because when you follow the pain back, it always goes back to the Godhead.
Yeah. And have you um been in the void, like the pure potentiality, like the dark void that they talk about? I've heard a lot of NDE experiences, and there's a
Yeah,
fella that I've
the void is the will.
yeah. So that
The
is
void
actually
is the will, and
even
the will is the thing in itself. The will is the S of the essence. So everything actually emerges out of the will. You could say, and you wouldn't be wrong, you could say that God is the son, the son of the will. So the will is God's mother and wife, the yin yang. But God emerged from the will. The will is the dark void is absolute inclusivity and unconditional love.
yeah, and pure potentiality. I think I've heard it described as well.
Inclusivity. She
Yeah,
includes everything. Every potential is included. It's
yeah,
absolute inclusivity.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And so, how long have you been doing this healing modality? For how many years now?
Um, well, I think I had like 4 years, 4 years. It was, when Hurricane Andrew hit. And so that was like from 1990,
Yeah,
1990. And then,
yes.
yeah,
And do you find people are more receptive to it now? Do you find that there's more of an upswing of people wanting to heal, whereas before it was very hard for people to relate to this modality, or because even when I did Reiki, like I did Reiki back in the 90s, and it had just started becoming a little bit more known as to what it was, but there was still a lot of people back then that just thought, oh, that's a bit woo woo, you know. Whereas I've I've seen personally myself probably from the late 90s into the early 2000s, but particularly in say the last even 8 to 10 years, there's definitely been more of an awakening of these other aspects of ourselves, and people wanting to do the work and wanting to take responsibility for their lives and wanting to do their own healing, and taking responsibility, I guess, is part of that, knowing that you have the power within you to heal yourself and not looking for external you know,
that's a huge
things.
deal, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we're just now wrapping our heads around the UFO thing and the Sasquatch thing. We're just now wrapping our heads around that. And then we've got the people who are remote viewing. You know how remote viewing works? It's not remote, it's not viewing. It's a feeling inside.
Mm.
And how does that mean if you're remote viewing a star in another galaxy, a planet on a star in another galaxy, that means you are connected to that star in another galaxy. That's what I'm saying. We're infinite and immortal and what was never created. Same
Yep.
thing with the near death experience, you know.
Yep. I've got a
You
different
go there,
view.
you're here, you know nothing, and you go there and you go, now I know everything. I know, you see us, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've got a different perspective now on stars and galaxies and things because I came across the flat Earth um, in about 2015, 2016, I think. And when I started looking into it and doing a lot of research, it made more sense to me than what we were told by NASA, and that was spinning on a ball hurtling through space. So I have had what you would call UFO type experiences and things like that. And I've had a lot of, I don't know whether you call them lucid dreaming or whether they're just visions, but I've had sort of uh, experiences with other beings, but I see them more as interdimensionally rather than, because I've actually, to prove it to myself, when I was um, doing the research to do with the flat Earth versus the globe Earth, I bought a Nikon P900 camera and zoomed in on the moon. I zoomed in on, Venus and Mars and other so-called planets, and they're definitely nothing like what you see in the NASA. Um, well, I wouldn't even call it footage because everything that NASA gives us is CGI or artist renderings and things like that. So I've definitely got a different perspective now on what we see in the sky. I do sort of think that there may be a firmament above us, and that we're in some kind of realm or some kind of toroidal field. But what's beyond that, I don't know. And
You
I,
know, that whole thing is a psyop, right? And what I mean by psyop is if the Earth is flat, then the round Earth is a psyop, and
yeah,
if the Earth is round, then the flat Earth is a psyop. It doesn't make any difference at all. I'm still going to get up in the morning and have breakfast, and I'm still going to watch my little stuff. I'm still going to be on the internet. None of that is has any impact really at all on on Earth. It doesn't matter. It's
yeah,
just a division tactic. It doesn't, who cares?
yeah,
If the
I,
whole thing's an illusion, that's fine. And if the whole thing's real, that's fine. You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's still what's going on inside of me. That's what counts.
yeah. I see what you're
You know what
saying.
I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I'm sort of, as I say, I came across the flat earth, and I used to say I was a flat earther, but now I consider myself just that I feel that we're in a realm. But to me it matters because I wanted to know where we were and why we had been lied to. So that's why I started investigating um, into that. But now I'm more interested in just doing the inner work for myself because, as you say, I feel there were all individual um, universes within ourselves, but we're also part of a collective. So I'm steering most of my energies now towards the healing modalities, the healing processes, and yeah, I'm open to anything. There's so much that's on the table still that I don't know, and I'm happy to say that I don't know. That's another thing I've had to learn is when you're looking at the scientism side of things, they have all their boxes checked and all their I's dotted and T's crossed and all the questions answered, and there's nothing new under the sun. Everything's been discovered, there's no new lands. Whereas I tend to think it's the opposite. I think there's so much that we don't know, and it's okay to say we don't know. There's so much still to discover, um, and we're continually,
Well, you're going to die
creating.
and then you're going to go to heaven and then you're going to have a life review. Is that right?
Um, well, even that I'm questioning. I'm looking at all avenues as to what happens after we leave this plane. Um, like
Well,
whether heaven
when
is.
you hear a couple of hundred people say that, you think that's a possibility. There's a possibility. There's a lot of people who don't get a life review
Yeah,
and they have different kind of experiences out there. But you need to live. We need to wake up and live our life as if everything's being written down in a book somewhere that
Oh,
that
yes.
it's,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I
That
definitely agree that, yeah, I do.
every
Yeah.
kindness, every hurt, every
Yeah.
word that you say, every intention, every uh gratitude, it's all being written down and recorded, which I
Yeah.
think is pretty accurate, whether it has to be in a Godhead type heaven thing or not. I don't care about that. But th- that has to do with your inner being.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you gate your mind, train your mind to be a kind person, or to be a caring person, or be an optimistic person, or be a grateful person, or a loving person? That's what's important. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get lied to, and there's strangeness going on. You're on the right track to not believe in anything. Don't stick a flag on anything and say, this is my territory, this is my
Yeah.
belief.
Yeah. Oh,
You
I'm
don't have to
changing all
do
the
that.
time. Yeah, and I'm happy to say that. A lot of people, they do, like, um die
This
on
is
that
it.
hill. Yeah, yeah. Whereas I'm always searching, always looking, always investigating. Like I say, I've got so many things on the table, and I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some things resonate with me more than others. Some things I just have a knowing, an inner knowing that this is truth and that is not truth. But yeah, your question about going to heaven, it depends what your idea of heaven is. Like I again, it's such a hard question to answer because there's so many different perspectives or so many different ways you could look at what the heavenly realms are. Is it just one place? Are there levels to it? Which I tend to think that there's possibly levels to it. But I think our ultimate home is going back to that void. Um, but also we can create other lives. And again, here's the thing about time. Time's not linear. There is just the all ever present moment. So when we are doing these so-called past life regressions, they're not necessarily in the past, it's in the eternal now. It's just we're focused at this point in this particular incarnation, but concurrently we could be living other lives in other dimensions, but we're not focused on them in this particular um, perspective at this point. But again,
Well,
it's so
that
hard.
you're bringing up a really good point, right? This past the when you die and you go to the Hall of Records, you have these pages and pages, or you have a slide. They show you a big slideshow, and it's like, here you were when you're 7, and here you were when you're 14, and here you were when your first girlfriend and boyfriend, and right. It's a slideshow, and each one of those slides is you, complete. It's completely you. And then there's a new you, right? There's a you that was born and it goes in the crib. Then there's a new you that's crawling around. Then there's a new you that's up and walking. Each one of those things is like a stage of life. And then there's a you that is wounded. This trouble we had, divorce and drugs and whatever was going on in life, beating and yelling, screaming, right? There's that page, or maybe it could be 5 pages or whatever. Those are traumas, right? And then you grow up and you get on drugs and you get off drugs and you get yourself straightened out. And each one of these is a you, and a different you. Every 7 years we got every cell in our bodies rejuvenated, right?
Yeah.
So just on the mere bare minimum, but every um, so healing work, right? That child that's hurt is not you.
Yeah.
It is connected to you as like your father isn't you, but your father created you. The inner child is not you, but your inner child created you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is important to know that this past life review, which that's how psychics do it. When you go get a psychic reading, they just see the flashcards and they say, "Oh, this is going to happen in your future. Or this happened in your past, and watch out for here, and don't drive on Wednesday or something." Whatever they tell you,
Yeah.
right? That's because they're looking at this slideshow that you're talking about is the eternal now, but
Yep.
then we have these little images that go all the way back. And those
Yes.
images go back to past lifetimes. They go back and back, and they go all back to our emergence. They go back to the Godhead, which is where we sort of were formed in with spirits themselves or emerged. We emerge from the void.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
So those, yeah, because the review, again, the reason I said I don't necessarily hang my hat on that is because I've heard so many NDE experiences, and as you say, not everybody goes through that past life review. But I definitely, that's on the table, that is a potentiality of when you die, and I definitely know that every single thought, every deed, every action is recorded. Some call it the Akashic records, some call it the halls of Amente. So there is a record
Some
of,
people call it the book of life. You're going to go read
yes,
your name's in the book of life.
yes, yes. So every deed, every thought, every action is recorded. And I
And they're
do,
not you. And they're not you. I keep saying this because it's important. And because this is the issues we're having now with all
yes,
this psychology stuff, right?
yes,
It's not you. It is a piece of you that you grew out of that, but it's
yes,
not you. So that puts you in a position of authority, of being an adult, of being a mentor, and then you can have compassion for what is not you,
yes. And it takes
and
away the judgment as well,
it takes
because,
away the
yeah,
judgments. Yeah, and
because so
also
many,
it gives you something to do. You know what I'm saying? It's instead of it just being this fog of memories, right?
yeah,
You have these memories, and then you have to call up the memories, and they're all disjointed, and they all have interpretations, and they all have biases on them. No, you can go back and deal with the trauma and be compassionate.
yeah,
You basically have to reparent yourself, or and everybody needs to be doing this. You know what I mean?
yes,
The stuff that you're doing, you should look at it as like, you're moving mountains for people, but they still have to do some kind of the work on themselves,
yes, yes,
because it
exactly.
won't stick unless they do it on themselves for
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's like people that go to clinical hypnotherapy sessions to even something as simple as, quitting smoking, or overeating or whatever, and they might stop for a little while, but then they'll fall back into it again. But a lot of it is to do with probably the will, and not really, not just not believing, but not really taking full responsibility, because they're looking for the therapist to do it for them. Whereas if they're totally honest with themselves, they could probably realize that I'm not quite ready to let go of this yet. And until I'm ready to let go of it, it's not going to stick. But once you get to really wanting to let go, really wanting to make the change, really wanting to heal and step forward, rather than continually either staying stuck or looking back, that's when the miracle happens, I think. And that's when it does stick. And then yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
There's a saying that I thought I was the first one to ever come up with. This saying was because I had insanity, and I had drugs and all kinds of stuff in my family, and suicide and psychosis and stuff. That was what I came home to every day when coming home from school. But I, I was that's what made me like wonder what happens to people. Then I realized that people get hurt by people. So people hurt people.
yes. Hurt people, hurt
And
people. Yes,
and then that evolves to and I was thinking this back in this, in the early 70s, but then it evolves into hurt people,
yeah,
right? And
yes,
and also what was done to you stick to you. So if you have a lot of stuff that's done to you, you get these messages like I'm not worthy, or everything's hard, or it's my job to suffer, or there is no love for me. You screwed the pooch with love. If you believe in, if you have that bad self-image that says there is no love for me, that just wipes out all possibility. And any love that comes to you, you won't recognize it, or you won't open to it, or you won't cultivate it, because it just wipes it out.
Yep.
Uh, that's where the judgment and denial release comes in. That's my third process: judgment and denial release. And so what this applies to, is where the person's at when they're trying to do their healing work. If they're so loaded up with negative self-hatred, basically what it is forms of self-hatred or self-denial or self-disregard. They're loaded up with that, then they're going to have, it doesn't matter what the modality is, they're going to have a hard time with it. They're better going off with somebody like you or some good Reiki therapist or somebody who's got some integration, somebody who's authentic, that can help them get them going.
Yep.
Because if you have a toxic self-talk, stinking thinking,
Yep.
toxic self-talk, that's really hard to pull off. You got to stop that toxic self-sabotage, for along with doing all your other healing work. But I'm talking about this negative stuff, but everybody heals. Die and go to heaven, all those people are healed.
Yep.
What sticks to you, you come back and you might have, like, if you had a narcissist in this lifetime, you may come back in the next lifetime and hook up with a narcissist again, because you obviously didn't get it in that this lifetime you got it. So
Yep.
some of it does residue over.
Yes. Yeah. And I do find too, with the study I've done over the years, generational traumas can continue until you get to a certain point where somebody in the family just goes, that's it. It's this lifetime that I'm, cutting all those cords, ending that karma, healing this generational trauma. Because, like I said before we started recording, we bring in trauma even from birthing, even when we're in utero and our mothers are going through things, we're taking on her thoughts, her feelings, especially if we weren't wanted or we were a surprise or unwanted pregnancy initially, which was the case with me. My mother was only 18 when she fell pregnant with me, and back in the 60s that was just absolutely out of wedlock. It was just like, oh my gosh. So luckily my dad decided to well, they were already planning on getting married, they just had to bring the wedding forward. But mum was so young, dad was 9 years her senior. And I can just imagine the horror that she would have felt having to tell my grandparents that she was pregnant, because they were very old fashioned, very Victorian in their outlook. They were from the Air Force, so they were, military regimented. So I can imagine what my mother went through. So I would have been taking on all that right from the zygote. So,
Absolutely. You have the energy, which means you have the trauma, half the self-hatred, half the reaction, half the triggers of your
yes,
parents.
yes,
And that's her. We learn to talk from them. They don't teach us to talk. We learn to talk from them by feeling their vibration. So we get it even better than they got it. So
yeah,
yeah, that's the thing. I wanted to say this thing about diseases, because you have uh there's no such thing as a disease that goes down through a family line.
yeah. Yeah,
There's no
genetics.
there,
No,
there's
it's
no genetic
no.
bond, that goes, well, my aunt had breast cancer, my mom had breast cancer, I'm gonna have breast cancer, my daughter's gonna have. That's
Yeah,
not what it is.
no.
What it is okay, we have, if I can put it how we can do it. Every word you say and every thought you think is a spirit. And then the stuff that happens to you that's adverse against you, those have spirits too. But there's more spirits out there than just what happens between your mom and dad and you, right? There's the spirit of the religion, right? It's the culture. There's a culture of, you can't be pregnant and not married. And and children should be seen, not heard. There's a religious culture. There's a The town you're raised in had a culture. Your neighborhood had a culture. Your schools had a culture. And each one of these things is a being, and each one of these things is like a, a brick in your wall.
Yep.
So if you have a really shitty culture, right, it's hard to turn that around because that's also part of well, just to go to it, how powerful that is. Is that almost every major disease is a result of adverse childhood experiences, not genetics.
Yes.
I got some data here. Maybe you want me to rattle off some diseases that are caused
Yep.
by.
Yep.
Let's see if that is the right one. Okay, this is from the Center of Disease Control, the good old, world famous CDC. Okay, these are the factors. The number one factor for these diseases is what they call ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences, and the risk increases the risk for chronic illness and poor physical health. So they did big studies on this. So their data is actually pretty good. So childhood adversity is the number one factor for asthma, cancer, celiac disease, chronic fatigue, coronary heart disease, diabetes, fibromyalgia, hypertension, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, liver disease, lung disease, COPD, lupus, multiple sclerosis, right? Rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's syndrome, sleep disorders, stroke, thyroid, Graves, thyroid, Hashimoto's, poor, which is another thyroid thing, and poor self-related health. Okay,
Yep.
that and the numbers actually right now in the United States are running about 66% of all the adults of all, not just the adults, of all humans in the United States are on some kind of psychoactive, psychosomatic drug for symptoms that aren't biological, but
Yes.
yet manifest, right? That's what most of those things are, symptoms that are not biological, and yet they manifest as arthritis and as our diabetes and as cancer and all these kind of things. So the stuff we're talking about here is serious as a heart attack. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's serious
Yes.
because this stuff, and it's not just what happened to your mom and your dad. It's like, what's the job situation like? What's the political situation like? What's this? How hard is it to get along? Is there strange stuff going on? Like the stuff that's going on in America, the stuff that's going on in Australia, it's just wild. It's fairyland, nightmare stuff of the political
Yep.
and the power grabbing and the genocide and all that kind of crap. Anyway,
Yes. Yes. I
it, the,
that's why
go
I
ahead.
feel that um this uptick on really wanting to heal and help people heal and well at least educate them that they can heal themselves. We don't heal, because that was the first thing that my Reiki master said to me when I was doing the Reiki course back in the 90s, and we had a class of about 25 people, and he said, "Who's here to be a healer?" And of course a lot of us put our hands up. He said, "Well, you may as well walk out the door now." And we're like, "What?" And he's like, "You're not healers." He said, "You're the conduit for the healing to happen. You're the channel, you're the facilitator. The person you are working with heals themselves." So, but it's so important now to make people aware of that, especially for the generations coming through now that have come into the last 3 years with all the added stresses of what all that's brought. So that's why I think it's really important to do this work and to make people aware, that there are ways that we can turn within and do the healing, and to, all these systems are crumbling. The pharmaceutical companies are going to be crumbling at some stage, because more and more people are starting to realize we don't need these drugs. We don't need external influences. I mean, it's good to use tools like holistic, like using herbs, essential oils, things like that. We can use these sound therapies and things like that. But basically, if you strip everything back, it comes back to the self and, like the connection to source. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
You in Australia, does Australia have a constitution?
it does, but it's not adhered to by the politicians at all in any way, shape, or form. They pretty
Oh, well,
much,
that's
yeah.
normal. Yeah.
But yeah, we do have a 1901 constitution. I've actually got a copy of it on my bookshelf. It's about yay thick, big hardcover. But yeah, it's the politicians here just, they're a law unto themselves.
Well, those things are going to have to go because the
Yeah,
Constitution is a declaration of the powers that are taken away from human beings,
yeah,
right? We have a constitution. Our constitution is our mind, our hearts, our soul, and our
yeah,
body. Okay, spirit, heart, will, and body. And who runs the show is spirit runs the
yes,
show, but
yep,
it has to take into account the heart, the will, and the body.
yep,
And it's sort of like to balance it all out. If you're just a headstrong person, then you're just a bully to yourself, and that's not going to get you anywhere.
yep,
But that right there is the basis of all the constitutions that have taken our powers away.
yep,
In our Constitution, we say, oh, we have, that in order to make a more perfect union, which is like saying it's going to turn to shit in 100 years. In order to make a more perfect union, because as soon as you say the word perfect, then it's like the road to hell is paved by good intentions. And
yes,
our Constitution has the best intentions on the planet, which means we're going to sink and go down like the Bismarck, right?
yep.
So, uh,
The same as law.
because
There is,
the road to heaven, right, is paved by evil deeds, and that's what we're seeing now, evil deeds. So,
yes,
but we have given away our constitution, which is our being,
yep,
to this uh sort of
man-made, yep,
mafia kind of a pseudo cult thing. We're giving
yes,
away our constitution to them by just like what is abstention. But as soon as we run our inner government, our outer government has to reflect the inner government.
yes.
Yeah.
Same as law, LAW versus LORE. There really is only one law, LORE, and that's God's law. That's nature. That's universal law. Whatever. There's many ways you could describe it, but it's the one law that runs through everything in creation. Um, Whereas all the man-made laws, they don't mean diddly squat in the big scheme of things, and even in the smaller scheme of things, they certainly don't. So yeah, but yeah, no, I'm really glad to be on this healing journey and helping people to become aware of the different modalities, because what suits one person may not suit another. So it's good to have a few different modalities, a few different avenues that people can go down, to find what fits for them in their current situation so that they can heal and become whole. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all modalities. I mean, the practitioner, if you're going to go one to one with somebody, to make sure that that person has done their clearing work. And it's shocking how many people who set up shop as life coaches and stuff, and they've just got, a weekend or something, and then they call themselves therapists. Because if you're going to go surrender your authority to a counselor or therapist or somebody who's going to do an intervention for you, you're giving your soul away, and say, here, you can play with my heart, and you got to trust that person. So
yeah,
what I like about us talking from before and even now is the amount of training that you've done and the amount of ongoing clearing that you've done. Because the more clear you are, if the person's out of tune, then your tuning fork's out of tune, you're not going to do anything for them. Or if
Yep.
you're Reiki, right? If you're out of tune and the person's out of tune and you're doing Reiki on them, all you're doing is mixing up your stuff with their stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's
Exactly.
why I do everything that I do for free, and I take a step back because I'm not a good therapist, because I'd say, look, none of that stuff is real,
Yep.
and here they're crying and their baby and uh, I have like tremendous amount of compassion, but at the core of my being, I know it's absolutely not true. If it
Yes.
comes, it can go,
Yep.
right? That's a law. What was created can be destroyed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The law of
all that
attraction and the
stuff
law
is
of
going to get
repulsion.
gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
Exactly.
absolute laws.
Yeah.
If it's created, it'll be destroyed.
Yes.
If it comes,
Yep.
it goes.
Yep. Exactly.
But that goes back to what you're saying about that guy who cleared out a whole mental health thing just by saying that's not true. I don't believe it.
Yes.
That's true. I read that story before.
Yes.
Just not believing your own stuff is really powerful.
Yes.
None of that stuff is true.
Yeah. Because we often get caught up in our stories and um, yeah, and that's that perpetual loop, and you have to get off that merry-go-round. Yes, you have to acknowledge what happened to you and the pain you went through, but then there's a time to let go and not continue that loop of just keep retelling the same story over and over, which a lot of people get stuck on that. And that's where a lot of these healing modalities really help people to shift through that and to see it from a different perspective and to just and it just dissolves away. A lot of it just dissolves away, and you'll get to a point I've found with my own work that I've done on myself that I try to bring the feeling back or how I must have felt, and it's totally gone. It's like you can't even imagine what happened anymore because you've just totally transformed and transmuted that energy that you can't even pull it into your field anymore because it's not a vibrational match to where you are now. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, that is the symptom of proper healing, is when you can get to the point where it never happened. It's
yeah,
as like it never happened.
yes,
It's like this. If you're driving a car and one of the tires leaks air, and then every day you got to pump that tire up, right? And then it leaks air and it starts pulling it around and everything. Well, when you actually put a new tire on there, right? And everything's okay. And then the first 15 minutes you drive it, you go, oh, this is perfect. The next day you forget about it. The next day after that, you forget, because it's like it never happened, right?
yes,
And that's
yep,
the symptom of proper healing.
yes,
There's no
yep,
residue, there's no regret. There might be a lesson learned if it was like a human kind of human to human thing, like a marriage, divorce, something like that. That might be there.
yep,
But yeah, it's just like all that energy is gone,
yes,
as if it never happened.
yep, yes. All right, well, I guess we better start wrapping it up now, but I'm happy to have you on again if you want to, yeah, continue the discussion on healing and your language lessons of the heart. So, do you want to just tell people where they can find you if they're interested in what you're doing and where they can connect with you?
Yeah, like I said, everything I do is free. It's in a video workshop format, which is on YouTube. So you can look for Michael Harrell, Language Lessons of the Heart. And I have a support group. We've got almost 7,000 people in it now. You'd be surprised how many people that are in that group that are healers.
Yes.
For a long time, it was about 25%. So, one out of four people would have a healing. But everybody wants to know. They want to know what this is. So
Yep.
definitely, maybe my modality isn't for everybody, but you can look up Language Lessons of the Heart group on Facebook, and you're welcome to join. Everything I do is for free. there's this image in my head of some people out there who are therapists, PhDs, or whatever. And the feeling that I get from them is that they're ghouls who are feeding off the pain of others. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And it's like when I was in college, right? I actually started the Psychological Association for Miami-Dade Community College, and I actually interviewed in that association. I actually interviewed a lot of therapists. That's a miserable life. It is a miserable life,
Yes.
to
Yep.
listen to everybody's stories and not be able to do anything about it and carry this burden around. That's not
Yes.
the life I want. No, no,
Well,
you
even
shouldn't either. There's ways of doing it where you don't have to listen to the person's story. They need
yes.
to know the story. You don't.
Yes. Well, Jerry Marzinski talks about that in his work, and he said that the suicide rate for psychiatry is through the roof.
And
Um,
divorce rate also.
yes, yes. So because they're just taking on board everything that their patients are dishing out, and because they're not believing the patients that these voices are external, they're just going down it's a chemical imbalance and we need to medicate. So they're just compounding the issues as well.
They're in the
So,
dark ages.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, energy work and healing and taking responsibility is the way to go forward. So, well, it's,
Like I talked tonight, we're energy beings, we're consciousness. So anything that involves, and a consciousness is the feeling of energy. If the energy comes to you and it's not right, then the consciousness is not right. So that means it's demonic or it's not right for you. It's right.
yeah,
So it's all about energy, it's all about consciousness, and it's all about clearing and cleaning your energy. The energy
yes,
from your heart, the energy from your will, your emotional body, the energy from your physical body, and the energy from your spirit body.
yeah,
You clear all those guys out and get them so they're all working together like a little team, like they're supposed to work, and you're good. Like here I am. I'm 73, right? No arthritis, no
yeah,
bursitis, no pain, no suffering, no inflammation, because there's not that stuff going on inside of me. It's gone. All that stuff is gone. I
yeah,
got a lot of gratitude. I got a lot of, just joy, just being in the world. And
yeah,
it's just natural. That's
yes,
one more thing I want to leave it with is we have this thing, right? Another big lie is this is that we got spirituality is something you got to get, right? You got to do. We have this thing called baseline bliss. Right now, you and I are in baseline bliss, right? Normal breathing, normal talking, normal being, right? That is a vibration of bliss. You go up a little bit from that and you feel happy. You go down a little bit from that and you feel like miserable or sad or tired or whatever. We're in a baseline bliss all the time, but we don't value it. We don't say, this is God manifesting my breath. This is God looking out my eyes. This is the ecstatic reality of being a ghost in form, in the shell, right? We don't value the baseline of what it is to be alive. You don't really have to do anything. You're alive. That's it.
yep,
You've accomplished the greatest goal that could ever be. And people get so stressed out about trying to achieve a spiritual thing. That was why I was out there in that tree and meditating and not giving not caring anymore, just because I couldn't do
yep,
it anymore, because I was trying to become enlightened to solve my pain. If you solve
yep,
your pain, then the baseline bliss is enough.
yep,
Trust me, you don't need any more added on top of it. You don't need to get anywhere. It's already there. Remember, we can do remote viewing, right? You can see in another galaxy and another star and another planet, and you can remote view it. That's how big we are, right? So it's the same with being awakened or elevations and all this kind of stuff. We're already there. We're already at the Godhead. We're already in the void. We're already in the light.
yep.
Yeah.
Isn't there a saying something about chop wood, a before enlightenment, chop wood. After enlightenment, chop wood.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chopping wood is where it's at. You know
Yep.
what I mean? That's the baseline bliss. It's because yeah. I've being a meditating guy, I got my share of bliss. It goes up, it comes back down, and you're left with the way you are. You
Yep.
got to value the way that you are. That's
Yes.
self-love,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Absolutely.
Value what's going on now. Breathing. If you don't value what your life is like now, try holding your breath for 3 or 4 minutes.
Mm.
And then you'll see how important that breath is,
Yep.
how
Yep.
valuable that life is.
Yes. Well,
Anyway,
I
I want to
nearly
thank you
drowned
so
when I
much
was
for
a
the
kid,
show,
so
man.
I know what that's like. Yes, thank you for coming on the show. It's been awesome.
It was just made my heart good, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, thank you.
I've been shadow banned and there's some dark energies that's going around that really didn't want this to go. Before COVID, I would reach 250,000 people in a month,
Yeah.
and now I'm at 59,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been shadow banned, and anyway,
Yeah. They're
it's
definitely
because what I do and what you're doing and what I do is very, very real. When you change the person inside, you change outside. The
yes.
outside is corresponds to the inside, the above and below, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way we're changing the world. Like you're doing the healing work. When you
Yeah.
change that, which all healing has to do with self-compassion, that changes your constituency in your constitution,
Yeah.
right? And that changes the world. That
Yeah.
changes the government. That changes the religions. All that stuff is crumbling now.
Yes. And that's another reason why I stopped going on all, the looking down all the different rabbit holes. It was good to actually get uh, an overall view of everything that goes on and all the lies in, the banking system and the pharmaceutical system and the schooling system and the this, that, and the other, and even as to where we live, which I just say now that we live in a realm. I'm not even hanging my hat on anything. We live in a realm, um, or a construct, as Darius J. Wright calls it. But now it's for me, it's about the healing. It's about, okay, my eyes have been opened. I know that what we have been taught since we were children was a complete lie. And so we've had to throw everything out that we have previously been taught. And now we've got a blank canvas and we're recreating. And it's from this point forward that we can now create the future that we want. We can create the world and the reality that we want. So yeah, and that's what I'm wanting to do, is be the change.
It's not enough to know something. You got to be able to do something. If you can't
Yes.
do anything about the government and the war in Gaza and yeah and adrenochrome and all these kinds, if you can't do anything about it, then
Yeah.
do it inside and
Yes.
clear it out of you inside, because all this fear mongering and all this
Yeah.
control mongering, all that stuff is just to keep you from being able to clear that. If you knew everything that was going wrong, okay, so we know everything that's going on, then what? Then
Yeah.
what? Then that
Yeah.
means you're loaded up with all this stuff. Then what?
Yeah.
No, clear it out, because when you do emotional release, you do your mom and pop, then you do the grandfathers and grandmothers going back in generation, keep on going,
Yeah.
and then you can get to them and they, right? Them and they is like the culture, and then
Yeah.
you just go realm after realm until you get all the way out to the Godhead, right? Just
Yeah.
release all that stuff, you know,
Yeah.
so that when we come back, it's not going to be the same planet, not going to be the same Godhead, not going to be the same demons, not going to be the same archons, not going to be the same whatever, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we could keep talking forever, but we'll have to definitely do a part two at some stage. So it's been so great having you on the show. Thank you so much, Michael. And yes, people, please check out Michael's Facebook and YouTube channel, Language Lessons of the Heart. And I'm sure that there'll be something there that you'll resonate with. All right, then.
Yeah, it's
So,
a good toolbox to add if you're into collecting tools.
yes. All right. Thanks for that. I'll just stop recording and we'll say goodbye.